one of the top-rated presentations at last year's TAD Summit. We've got him back. We're going to be hearing from him tomorrow, but I just, again, want to give people a taste of the diversity that's out there. It's not just startups. It's not just web companies. It's not just established businesses. This has a very important role within telcos as well. And I think the work that Werner's been doing is very exciting. I'd also like to thank Werner for his support in TADAC Global. We had Telenor Digital running 2 locations in Oslo and Stockholm. So thank you, and over to you, Werner.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Werner Erikson, and as you said, I'm from not a small startup. It's a fairly old company from 1899, I think. However, I had a team which is kind of working like an internal startup. So it's a small team having big ideas on doing big things. And for those of you that were there in the, last year, I tried to give an overview on what we did and how we did it. And I had to modify the presentation slightly. I added the soon. So we're saying we're soon ready for business. Basically taking this small idea out of the small kitchen and trying to bring it to real people. So just a small recap. So for those of you who were here yesterday or last year, you know that our ambition was to actually explore a major part of mobile operators network, looking at the core network elements, not the radio access, but everything beyond. And the reason for that is that we believe that the way that the industry has worked for many years, by dividing the responsibility of product development to big companies like the Ericsson and Huawei's of the world, based on standardization that takes time, is about to change a bit. And we would like to understand a little bit of what's possible. So we added some people that were explorative in nature and knew as little as possible about telco from the beginning. And of course, when you mix that with a running operation, the response is, of course, great, we will like your new services, but please don't use my network. And you can relate to that. If you have a business generating billions of dollars, you don't want any guys like this to mess around with your HLRs, your SMSCs, and so on. So what we ended up doing was basically say, well, there are things called MVNOs, and there are different variants of those. And we wanted to build so-called a full stack MVNO using the bare minimum that we could get from our host operator, basically the radio access. And by doing that, we would be able to mess around at will. Now, we won't go into the details here, but this is basically what it looks like at the moment. We have been building and we have been sourcing different components. We are managing all of it in our little team. The pinkish color is pointing at things we are doing ourselves. And we're doing them to open up and avoid having black boxes in our network that we can't change at will. And we have been working with various companies, mostly with open source agendas to enable this. And then, of course, we also saw that why should we leave out all the good tools and also the platforms available to any startup today. So we have been playing around with both private cloud setups and also public cloud setups. And what's interesting, of course, is that while we have been re-innovating basically 40 years of mobile history, I think we have realized that building an SMSC in 2015 is slightly different in 1992. Those days, a megabyte of memory was quite expensive, probably more than my car. Whereas now you are getting databases on tap, you are getting message queues on tap from the public cloud providers. So what used to be a major undertaking is now something that one or two guys can do in a couple of weeks or months. And if I tell this to the grandpas of GSM, they think you're crazy, and probably we are, but this is actually possible now. Now, we have a sponsor, and normally they don't start projects unless they are quite sure that we will make some money or some revenue at the end. Our project was kind of an exception. We managed to sell in the concept of saying, well, things are changing, and we have a team which looks quite similar to any internet company today in terms of the skill sets, the tools, and the understanding, and also the lack of understanding in the core network. Now, we have proven some things, and now, of course, the question is, can we actually make this a commercial service? And this is what I'll spend some time on talking about tomorrow. So I'll just give you a small teaser here. So this one is a given. And when we want to mix what we have done with revenues, immediately you are getting into regulatory territory. And one of the things that comes out of that is, bring up the number of nines. Initially, we said, well, we have a couple of nines. We have 3, maybe. 96.99. That's 3 nines for you. But it didn't really cut it. The problem, of course, is that adding nines, and I think the telco industry has been, to some extent, proving a formula that looks almost like this. If you try to correlate the number of new features that users are experiencing from different industries with the number of nines they support, the graph tends to look like this. Maybe you're part of an organization that has it differently, but this is our experience. I won't name names, but we have seen projects where a simple replacement of a database called the HLR, it's an important database, taking 12 to 18 months. And in the best case, the end user knows nothing about it. And in the worst case, your network goes down. So you get very careful about improving or changing or adding new things to this stack. And this, I think, is one of the main things that our project is trying to look into change. There are big companies out there serving more customers than any telco today, and they are pushing maybe 10, 20 changes per day. And I think this is where our industry needs to go. Anyways, I'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow. And our big fear has been that while working on adding nines, our ability to add the services has been dropping quite a bit. But I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow. Maybe do some demos. I don't know. Should do that in the dangerous demo section, maybe. I don't know. But I talked briefly last year about a simple service that I think should have been around for 10 to 15 years. Is basically having the ability to use your mobile number and your mobile services like voice messaging from any device. And in this example, we just enable this by using a technology called WebRTC, which will be familiar to many of you. Basically enabling anyone to leave their phone at home without being desperate about not getting the text message from wife or bank. Another example, I think machine learning and AI is interesting for many of you and many of us. One of the services that we might be able to demonstrate is the ability to enable any phone call going through our network with speech-to-text services. And if I'm able to show it to you, I think it's quite impressive. The responsiveness of these engines out there today are quite impressive, and they're improving every day. And still, while you think of it, the telco industry is the largest provider of person-to-person voice calls. And why not enable that or enhance that with machine learning engines and skills like the Alexas of the world, for instance. why shouldn't Alan give me a call, and then immediately we could plan a meeting, and that is looked up in our calendars, and there's a suggestion on when to have the next meeting. I think this is going to happen. We tend to have a platform where this is fairly straightforward to put in, and this is what we have done. Coming to APIs. APIs is, you know, the big dream, and we heard some examples of people exposing things and have some success, which is great. We have done something which is quite interesting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a service called If This and That. It's basically programming for dummies. And we proved, I need to be careful now. We proved that the other day because we had the CEO, and he's not the CEO of a small team, he's the CEO of a 30,000 people company. And he's not spending every day doing programming, but we gave him a challenge, and by using If This and That, he was on his own able to set up a service in 5 minutes that enabled him to turn on a Philips Hue lamp with a specific color when the CTO in our company calls. So he was quite happy about that. So I might be able to show you this as well. And these are just some examples of enabling things in a different way. If we were to do any of these experiments in the classic setup, it will be months, years, or probably never. This doesn't mean that all of these will be successes, but we need to get the iteration speed up. All right? We need to be able to learn faster than we have done. So, I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow, but basically in 2014, we started out challenging ourselves and also people in the company, saying, what if? What if we don't just go and buy black boxes from the standard vendors when building your networks? What if you take the same tools as any internet company out there today and apply that to this industry? And last year, we actually did it. And it's not a huge team. It's still less than 15 people. And 15 people out of 30,000 is not that many. But 15 people in any startup today, they tend to be able to do great things. And I think that is the benchmark. We are not counting our heads against the standard telco. We are counting our heads against the standard WhatsApps of the world. Anyways, we figured out, whoa, it is actually possible. And this was a bit of a surprise to us, actually, that building all of these components is fairly, complex when you start getting into it. And then this year, we have been challenged then. Well, you have something, it might be cool. Can you actually bring it to real people in some numbers? And while you do this, please don't stop innovating. And this is, the combination that can be difficult. What we're looking at then is, of course, hopefully to both scale in the innovation dimension and also adding customers to this setup. And if I'm back next year, that is what we have done. If not, it was nice to meet you. Thank you.
Excellent, Werner. If you could take your PC down and take questions. And Philippe, if you can come on down. So any questions for Werner? Carol.
So what kind of user do you have yet on your system? So no actual customer, or do you have actual customer, or is it just more like beta testers?
Yeah, so currently we have friends and fools that we normally know the first name of, mostly. But what we are working on is actually enabling this within the Telenor footprint for real users that we don't really know and are expecting the service to be as good as, or hopefully better than what they have today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yep, Mark, yep.
Thanks, Werner. Do you have any plans to extend what you're doing beyond the home operator environments? Sorry, your home operator environment, I mean.
That's a very good question. I will dive a little bit more into it tomorrow. Teaser for tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah, so as I said, scale. Telenor is not the biggest operator in the world, but it's still significant. 200 million subscribers out there. And initially, we are trying to reach out in our own footprint. But there's no reason why this, if it's a success, cannot be extended to support other operators, customers, our regions. And by using the technologies we have, like these public clouds and so on, as part of working with getting the nines up, we are able to spin up new complete core networks within hours in any region of the world from a technical point of view.
Okay, Werner, what sort of problems did you have convincing your parent company that they were going to give you access to a full SIG-TRAN and diameter feed? That must have been tricky. How did you overcome that?
That's a secret. No, actually, where are we based? In Norway. Telenor is the incumbent and is regulated to provide access to anyone that asks. So we could just point to that and say, well, why don't we use those interfaces? And then they are, of course, protected in ways that enables that.
This is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question, but how did you get Telenor to commit to funding the team without any guaranteed ROI or business case?
That's another secret. No, we're part of a group within Telenor called Telenor Digital. And that's about 200 people that are tasked actually to challenge and explore new ways of doing things. So in that setting, it was possible to do.
And let's face it, telcos employ some C-level that's paid a ridiculous amount of money to sort of deal with innovation. The team most probably earns less combined than that executive. So it's just get rid of the sort of C-level and then just focus on the team that actually delivers. Just one quick question I want to finish on. This is, and I won't go into the rant I have on this. I keep hearing this, 5 nines versus all the crappy 9s that you have. As an end customer, I never experience 5 nines from my operator. I experience a better quality of service and experience from WhatsApp than I do on SMS. So is the 5 nines argument and your 3 nines even relevant when we actually look at it from the end customer rather than the network?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. First of all, I think you should change your operator. I could give you a SIM card. No. No, well, also, if you look at the number of 9s, there's lots of definitions of that in the telco industry already today. And I think one of the big things that have changed over the time is that what used to be a very special treat for the telco industry, namely number of 9s, has now been outpaced by web scale companies like you just mentioned. But the user expects polished, beautiful, nice user experiences from any app that you put in your device. And part of that is that the service works. So it's not necessarily only from a regulatory point of view, but also from a user experience point of view. People start to get expectations that are up and beyond maybe the number of 9s that we have seen. So
Exactly, yeah. No, good point. So thanks so much, Werner. And we'll be hearing from you tomorrow. So excellent presentation as always.